Today I wanted to talk about some tips for people who are just getting started with the game. One of the biggest things I wanted to talk about is the serious mode option. Now, it may not look like much here for the first couple rankings and everything, but as you get farther into the game, the XP climb becomes kind of a grindy thing. And if you're just trying to get through the game and get to the online content faster, then I would definitely recommend using serious mode. However, it does make the game a lot harder. The computer players are not their typical derpy selves, so you'll have to be prepared for a much harder first place finish. So I'm going to fire up this tournament right here, because I wanted to talk about a few of the mechanics in the game that people may not be familiar with or overly familiar with.
And go! All fired up.
So let's get this rolling here, and then I'll give you a deeper explanation as to what I'm talking about. I love to say one of the improvements to the game that I've noticed is the interactive loading menus. It's pretty nice to be able to warm up and practice your shots before getting into the game, so you feel like you're already ready to go on the first hole. That was some terrible timing there. And that too. Well, hopefully I don't make these mistakes when I'm trying to show you these things today. So how have you been enjoying the game thus far? Any returning players that happen to watch this video, feel free to leave a comment and let me know how you like the changes that they've made from previous versions of this game. So, big thing to keep in mind when playing this game is the wind. The wind is a pretty big factor. It will mess with your ball, and it takes effect almost immediately from taking your shot. So, and another addition to this game that I wasn't aware about until I was reading in the comment sections earlier today is that on the left side of the screen, you'll see the club that you're currently using, and then a little bar indicator beneath it. That's actually the part of the face of the club that makes contact with the ball. And from what I understand, when you level up your control stat in this game, it's supposed to make it more consistently be struck in the middle of the club, but it's completely beyond your control. So even though you can adjust for the wind and, hit it perfectly with perfect impact, sometimes the ball will still veer left and right beyond your control because the impact on the face of the club is chosen at random. I don't know if this is something that's currently broken, because I've heard people with max control stats still having wobbly club faces, but if it's not something that's addressed in a future patch, that's going to be quite a problem. So let's go ahead and take this shot here. As you can tell, I didn't have perfect impact, but yet I hit it with the far left part of my face, the club face, which is obviously not how I would intend to make that shot. And it definitely affected how the shot went. So, another thing new players might not be aware about is the way the ball is currently lying. Like, if you look at the screen, you'd be like, oh, it's flat on the ground. But that's not always necessarily true. If you look to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can actually see that it's slightly tilted to the right. Now, this isn't a big deal right now, but sometimes the angle is very, very steep. And if you don't pay attention to that and you just go ahead and line your shot up and take a shot, it's going to pull the ball way off course. So that's something that you definitely want to pay attention to. Also, the uphill and downhills of where your ball is going to land affects how far it's going to roll. Like, the way this shot's currently set up right now, like, if I could do a top spin, as I usually do to try to, make it easier to sink the ball so I can aim more directly at the pin, if it hits the ground before that, it's going to roll far to the right, and it's going to take off pretty fast. So let's see if I can make the appropriate adjustments and sink this shot. And I got lucky and did. That's actually the backdoor ability. It levels up as you make shots like that, and it becomes easier to basically toilet bowl a shot and get lucky.
Look at you. Hole 2. It's a par 4.
So, another thing to keep in mind is this game also has power shots. As you can see, it adds 10 yards to your current shot. Now, unlike previous games, you have a power shot gauge. So, as you can see, I have 7. If I use all 7 of those up, I can still actually use my power shots. However, the chances of me making perfect impact or even solid contact at all is greatly reduced. So it's more of a use at your own risk type thing. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you look right below, right above the 0%, you'll see a slightly light pink color and then a white little spot. The white spot is perfect impact. That's, you know, you made a perfect shot. The pink area is actually still okay to hit. You're not going to whip it to one side or the other really hard. Anything outside that in the dark red or black areas is really, really bad, and your shot's going to go all over the place. So, you want to try to aim for perfect impact the best you can. That prevents as many accidents as possible. So spin is very important in this game as well, and it's something that's kind of hard to master, but once you get used to doing it, it becomes your favorite thing to do.
How's that? How's that? Magnificent eagle.
So this game also works off of a progression system, which is new to the series. It's not something that was in any of the previous games. I've played all of the games from the original PlayStation onward, and it's never had a club progression system. So what this is if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see the power control, backspin, backdoor. Those are all individual to each club that you have, you know, from your one wood to your putter. Your putter only has backdoor, obviously. So these actually level up as you use the club. So your one wood's going to get leveled up in the power department more than anything else because you use it the most for tee shots, you know. So you control stats based off of how close you land the ball to the pin. Backspin is obviously backspin. Backdoor shots is making chip-ins and things like that. When you first start playing this game, you're not gonna be able to hit the ball very far. I think it's 180 yards or something like that, which is pretty discouraging because, you know, you want to try to get on the green as fast as possible. And that's not the easiest thing to do when you're having to make 3 shots on a par 4 pretty much, because you can't hit the ball very far. So this levels up fairly quickly. It wasn't too long before I was hitting balls the way I want. So, and also another unique thing to this game that they've added, which was in previous versions but not in the same way, is there's different balls that you can use that apply different things. One's like ultra approach. You have a 15-yard approach shot instead of 30 yards. Another one makes the ball shoot at a low trajectory. You can hit better out of the sand, you can hit better out of the grass, stuff like that. The balls are actually consumable items in this game, unlike previous versions, so it's something that you can spend the currency that you earned in the game on, and you can also find them by going online and searching for items that are located at different holes. They change every day, and you can do it. It's suggested, I would suggest doing it every day, because that's how you earn coins. Special bonus gift, there'll be a little prize box next to the hole. Gems, which is used to upgrade custom clubs that you unlock later in the game, and turf war tokens so you can teleport to different holes faster. So, but let's talk about this putt real quick. So one of the hardest things about putting in this game is figuring out the directions for where your ball is going to go. Like, once you get used to learning to read, you know, exactly how fast these dots, what they actually mean, what their speed is related to, it's a lot easier to make shots. Now, it gives you an indicator. Normally, if you look at the bottom line above the bar, how it's like a light blue color indicating that it's going downhill. Also, the dots are rolling away from my character, showing that it's going downhill. Now, this is fairly easy to read, but it's something that you have to pay attention to because you may think that you're on a flat surface, but it might have a slight incline, and you end up missing a putt by a foot, and you're sitting there cussing yourself out. It's not something that you want to do. Now, putting gets easier the more you do it, in my opinion. It's something that you'll struggle with for a while. In this series, in this game, they changed the putting mechanic from being a 2-shot system to a 3-shot system, which I thought was kind of odd, though it does, I guess, make it more interactive when you're putting. I don't really know why they did it. I mean, I think it would be really hard to mess up a putt, but that's just me. So let's go ahead and try to sync this real quick.
Yeah. Eagle finish.
Yeah, I actually hit that a little bit too hard, but because of the level of that backdoor skill, I got lucky again.
Keep up the pace.
So I really just wanted to make this video because maybe there's some returning players who weren't familiar with some of the mechanics. Like, again, I didn't realize that the contact with the club face was something until today, and I've already gone through all of the ranks in the game and played several online tournaments. So that's something that I just figured out, which is extremely frustrating if you don't know what's going on, especially when you're doing everything that you assume you can do to, you know, play as well as possible, but yet the game is still trying to, feels like the game is still out to get you in its own way. Now, for returning players over people who are just starting the series, I feel like they're kind of at an advantage, the people that are just starting. And I know it sounds weird because you're like, well, played the game a lot, I know all the mechanics. Well, yeah, you know most of the mechanics, that's sure. You know, you backspin, side spins, things like that. But this game only has one shot availability, which is the 3-point system: tap, set your power, and set your impact. Now, in previous games, there was different shot systems, advanced shots, you know, was it like directional shots, stuff like that. There was a lot of different ways to take your shot. And you, well, maybe not you, but for me, I grew accustomed to using a certain shot style, and that was the way I liked to play the game. And when I heard this game was coming out and I pre-ordered it, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm already ready to go. I practiced some on the older titles to get myself re-familiar with the system and everything. And I was like, sweet, you know, I'll be ready to go. And then all of a sudden, this thing threw me for a curveball. I haven't used the click system since, you know, the PlayStation 2. Like, it was something that I felt was kind of obsolete, but they brought it back in this game, and I'll have to say that I've grown fairly used to using it again. But it was something that I wasn't expecting, so I would like to hear anybody's comments as far as the shot system, whether they'd like to see the old shot system brought back. Are they comfortable with the one that's currently here? Like, definitely let me know. Now, something for another tip that people may not be aware of, but you can actually skip the ball across water in this game by using top spin. Now, it's not always the most accurate thing, and you know, it's one of those things that you use at your own risk, but it's still pretty cool when you pull off a shot like that, and since for the sake of this video, I'm going to try to show it off here. I don't think I have enough distance to actually make it onto the fairway, but I'll suffice making the rough. So let's see if we can pull it off.
Go! Nice shot.
I actually don't think I made it.
Nope.
So if you hit it with, okay, I guess that's another thing that I should go ahead and explain. The system has many different spins. So there's regular backspin by just holding down. There's super backspin by holding up while setting the power like this, and then down while setting the impact. You just switch it. And there's also ultra spin in this game, which you unlock in the later ranks. Excuse me. Which is holding up while setting the power, and then not hitting anything until you hit the impact button to set the impact, and hitting the opposite direction for the spin. Like, at the exact same time. And if you do it right, it'll have a purple indicator on the ball. Flames will also be purple if it spins backwards, etc. This feature is actually unlocked, as is, I believe, the super spin. I'm not sure. I've been doing it forever, so I didn't really pay attention while playing the game, which, not good, obviously. But I'm going to try to do the super spin shot and show that off here. So remember, it's up while it's filling, let go of everything, and hit down at the impact. Now, this goes for all spins. For super spins and ultra spins, it's the exact opposite. So if you want to hit side spin to the right, you hold left going up, and then right at impact, etc. For just reverse it for all the spins. Like, it's the same thing. So once you get used to doing one, doing the others isn't too bad. But let's give this a shot. So, up. Nope. Time is too soon. So, it's not always the most consistent thing to do, and even if you get really good at it, there's still going to be some times where you miss, so that's just something that you just have to deal with, I guess. No real way around that. So, I would suggest also doing all of the daily tournaments. See, I did that shot way too fast. And paid for it, obviously. So there's daily tournaments every day. Well, you can play any number of tournaments on any of the courses that you have unlocked. Both are 9 holes. There's one that gives you a daily bonus. That's the one that I would recommend starting with, is the daily bonus tournament. Trying to place as high as you can. And you have to understand that, well, and I had to understand this as well. I was shooting the best I can, and I'm placing in the top 5% of people. Like, you know, I think I placed 290 out of 25 or 27,000 people the other day, and I'm playing the best I can, and I'm like, man, I suck. Like, this is terrible. Like, I'm doing good, but at the same time, I'm not doing as well as I would like to be. There's a lot of people scoring higher than I am. So, as you can tell with the club that I'm currently using, I'll show you once this stops now. And this is important to keep in mind as well. I can only hit 312 yards with my 1 wood right now. 322 with power shot. This is the big air club. This is the one that helps you hit farther in the game. There's one for control, there's one for spin, there's one for, it's like power and spin, or power and control, but it affects your impact. It makes it so that you can't hit the ball as well. Infinity clubs, I believe they're called. But there's also custom clubs that you unlock later in the game. These are leveled up using gems that you find around the holes. Every day there's a hole on each course that has items around it. Go collect it. There's 2 gems. Those are important because you use those to level up your custom clubs. You can also buy something from the store for like 99 cents and level them up, but I'm not trying to spend money when I can just earn the items in the game because I like playing the game. So, once you max out your clubs, because you level up each stat for that club by paying the guy at the home screen, and you can hit the ball like 370 yards. So people are easily making, you know, eagles, potential hole-in-ones on par 4s, you know, and you can't do that with even these clubs, which are the best version of this club. You can't hit the ball that far sometimes. So that's something to keep in mind and not get discouraged when you're first starting the tournaments. You will get better as the game goes on. So, also, I take advantage of this moment to show you something that you may not realize while you're playing the game that can be very detrimental. Taking off power shot here. So, you see the size of the impact bar. It slowly changes as you switch clubs. It gets bigger or smaller, things like that. So, say this was a par 5. I might not have enough on my 3 wood to get me onto the green for, you know, 2 shots on par 5 for my eagle chance. Well, I can pump it up to a 1 wood, and I might be able to get the distance, but if you notice, the impact bar at the bottom is a lot smaller. So it's really kind of dangerous, because if you mess up your shot, you might end up swinging into a bunker, going out of bounds, hitting a water hazard. It might cost you more strokes to try to go for the long ball than it would just to back it up one, have to make that second shot anyway, and just deal with it. So that's another thing I would bear in mind when, you know, getting into this game. It's very small things that, you know, after playing it for a while, you don't pay attention to as much anymore. But in the beginning, it's things that'll screw you up, and you're like, wait, how did that happen? And you kind of find out that's how it happened. You weren't really looking for it, but there it is anyway.
Good.
So, and in this game, as you see, control and backspin leveled up for my club. That was getting close to the pin and also using backspin to adjust the distance close to the pin. That's how you level up your clubs. So the key to leveling up your clubs in this game is just to use them. Like, that's it. But if you want a particular club to hit farther, you gotta use it more, and you have to hit it as hard as you can. And you just do this over and over until it levels up. Now, there's other ways to level up your clubs in this game. Every time you beat a versus character, one of your clubs will level up. And every time that you collect a certain amount of gallery characters by beating them by at least 3 strokes at the end of the tournament, after you collect a certain number of them, it'll also level up a club at random for all of your stats for that club, which is pretty convenient because it's harder to level up some of the clubs because you're not going to use them a lot unless you're literally just on the green, on the fairway, whacking away with a 9-iron for no other reason than just to level it up. Which I guess you could do, but I'm not that kind of person, so it's not something that I'm going to do.
Get it! Yeah, that's
Great job!
So, but as you can see, this is not serious mode. These people that I'm playing against are not very good. And yes, I have, you know, pretty high stats on all of my stuff. I've already beaten the game. But at the same time, even with the minimal set of clubs and never playing this game before, you're easily going to get first place unless you do some really, really terrible things.
Great shot.
Nice shot. Nice shot.
So also, bunkers, as you just saw, and rough, affects how much of the ball that you're actually going to hit. So I'll go ahead and explain that too while I'm here in the rough, and I didn't explain that in the bunkers, but that's okay. If you look in the rough right now, I'm going to hit 81 to 90% of the ball, which means that even if I hit it right here at the flag, I'm not necessarily going to hit the ball that far, because I can hit anywhere between 81 to 90% of it. So sometimes you have to make adjustments and hit the ball harder to make it fly as far as you would like, else you end up really short on your shots. Now, with the bunker, it's a very unique thing for sand traps, bunkers, sandboxes, whatever you want to call them. Depending on how hard the ball hits the bunker will affect how much of the ball that you're actually able to hit. Like the one that I hit back there, I hit a really high drive right into the sand. So I could only hit roughly 35 to 60% of the ball, which is terrible. That's half full blast, you're only hitting half as far. That's not a good thing. And that's something that's unique to sand traps. Now, with water hazards, normally it's just poof, you're in the water, you take a one-stroke penalty and call it a day. Now, there are some very rare occasions where the ball can roll into water that's shallow enough for you to actually hit it, but a couple things. First of all, your chances of hitting the ball decently are really, really low, about as low as the buried ball in the bunker, and you're not going to get good lift because it's underwater. Like, you're not going to scoop it out of the water very easily, so sometimes it's better just to take the penalty to place the ball somewhere else than it is to try to take the shot. Now, and I'll say that for a couple of other things too, like areas where it lands on a cart path and stuff like that. A unique thing in this game, if the ball lands on a man-made object, then you can actually drop the ball somewhere else with no penalty. So that's very nice. Like, lands on a cart path, you can move it somewhere else and it won't cost you anything. However, there are some circumstances where you'll have the opportunity to drop the ball and take a penalty. Sometimes it's best to do that instead of just trying to, hack your way through a forest or whatever it happens to be in your way. You're gonna take more shots trying to do it that way than you will just taking the one-stroke penalty. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. So that shows another example of the ball tilting. It's not laying flat, shifted to the left. So it's actually going to pull left when I make the shot. So unless I adjust for that, if I shoot here, it's going to end up over here. So I'm going to try to shoot it here and hopefully end up where I want it to be. That's pretty close.
Pressure shot.
Another really good suggestion I would give new players coming into this game is to just don't get frustrated. Like, I know that's hard. It's easy to just get really pissed off at something and just, go crazy with it. And the thing is, I mean, and this applies to a lot of things. If you get frustrated in this game, you're going to start screwing up. Like, even more than you might already be messing up at the time. Because you're going to be getting aggravated with mashing the buttons, you might hit the button too soon, you might end up shooting the ball too far. Like, you'll start speeding up how you're playing and playing in a negative way. And that's not good. It's not good. All that's going to do is frustrate you more, and you're going to have to turn the game off. And see, I could get bad there, but I'm busy talking to all of y'all, so I'm not exactly devoting all of my attention to this. So, but as you play, the key thing to remember about this game is the more you play it, the better you get. And also, the better your stats get, so the better you get. So really, this game is all about devoting some time. And really, it's just about having fun. Like, that's the most important part. You have fun with the game, and you get better as you play it naturally by your timing and also by your character actually improving. So, one last thing before I close out here. A cool thing about this game is that even though you play versus characters, unlike previous entries in this series, you don't actually play as any other characters than the person that you make. So, you get to design your completely unique character to yourself, and you get to dress them up in whatever you want, however you want to dress them. and you play as that character. So it gives you more of a sense of you're actually improving. You're not just beating this next person that's better than the character you're using and then switching out for that person. Like, you know, it adds a different feel to the game. One that I feel like it makes it a more personable experience. Like, everything that you do is you doing it, not doing it as somebody else who happens to be better than the next person, and then yada yada until you max out the best character in the game and everybody's using them. Like, no, you get to use you and everything's unique. So, but I hope that you found some of my tips to be helpful, and I would hope everybody comes back. If you like the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all soon.
Nice.